Everyone.
Good morning. Deputy Mayor, Councillors, Acting CEO, Directors, ladies and gentlemen. The traditional custodians of this wonderful place we call home in our valley, the Eci people, represent a human connection dating back over 2,500 generations. So we walk in those footsteps, and as a community, we pay our respects to the traditional custodians and their elders we honour, past, present, and those emerging. So this council meeting is being streamed live and recorded and published in accordance with the council's standing orders. Welcome to our online audience. We note that the members of the public attending today, draw your attention to the top right-hand corner of the screen over there. By attending this meeting, you are consenting to your image and voice, if you speak, being recorded and published in accordance with our standing orders. And we're also required to tell you that you may be subject to legal action if your actions or comments whilst in the public gallery are deemed inappropriate or unacceptable, which we know they won't be. So thank you very much. Declare the meeting open. And our opening prayer today, Reverend Ellen May. Reverend Ellen, welcome back to Council.
Morning, councillors. I know it's my job to pray for your agenda and all the work you've got to do this morning, but I also realise you're not cardboard cutouts. You all have a life outside this building, and I guess it was brought home to me when I heard the news of your CEO Michael and the health challenge he's facing, and I'd like to include him in my prayer this morning. And if any of you have someone you care about who's facing a similar challenge, as a cancer survivor myself, this sort of hits home particularly. It's someone you care about. You'd like to hold them in your thoughts as I pray. Even if you don't particularly believe in prayer, it's okay, I do. And stepping right out of line, gentlemen, is just a blood test. It really doesn't hurt that much. And who knows, you could live to be as old as me. And you pray. Almighty God, loving God, we come to you, and I pray now for these servants of yours as they come to face the agenda that's before them and the various issues that have to be discussed. And I pray for each of them that you'll give them wisdom and understanding. I thank you for each one and the particular skill set each of them brings to the table this morning. But we do pray for them as people with lives outside here and concerns they may be carrying and having put on one side, and especially pray for Michael Thompson this morning. Pray that you'll be near to him, that the treatment he's having will be totally successful, and that you'll help him to cope with all the unpleasantness of it. And anywhere we care about, we lift them up to you. Pray that you'll be with them and lay your hand upon them. And so again, Father, I pray that everything that is said and done here this morning may be worthy of you. And I ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Reverend Ellen. Appreciate you being here today. There's nobody absent on council business. There's no apologies. I'll say happy birthday to our director, Stephen Byrne. Happy birthday, Stephen. I can't think of any better way to spend your birthday than at a council meeting. I agree. It's Margaret's birthday. Mark? Oh, Councillor Bella's birthday, not today, but it was Saturday. Councillor Bella?
Thank you.
Yeah. Happy birthday for your birthday just gone.
No.
Oh, coming.
Saturday.
Well, I'll get it right soon. Okay.
Party at his house.
So there's no apologies. Condolences. Councillors, I think we'll take the leave of council to express our condolence to the family, immediate family and the friends of Steve Seaton, who was on our council crew at Serena. Steve actually came to the council, to our council, from Isaac's council, where he worked for quite some time. And working at Serena, as you know, his sudden passing was a great shock to our crews, everybody who knew him, and especially to Leslie, his wife. So his funeral will be on Friday, but I'd like, at this council meeting particularly, to record our condolences and note the passing of Steve Seaton. Are there further condolences? Councillor Mann.
I'd just like to note the passing of Carmen Munford on unexpected on Friday the 11th of March. Carmen is the mother-in-law of former councillor Errol Payton, who served on this council from 2016 to 2020. And she was also very well known in the dance clan at Dow's Creek Community Hall, where she danced from 1995 to when she passed away. So if we could pass on our condolences to her husband Ken and all of the family, that would be appreciated.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Further condolences? No further condolences? Thank you. Let's move on to the confirmation of the minutes. My tooth back in this morning. The minutes of the 9th of March for 2022 have been circulated. We've got nothing back. Would somebody like to move that the minutes of the 9th of March be adopted? Councillor Mann moves, seconded by Councillor Hassan. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried. Thank you. Business arising out of those minutes, as reported back to Council to be noted in this agenda, are on pages 5 through 7 of the agenda. There's no mayoral minutes this morning. Consideration of committee reports and recommendations. First of all is the Local Disaster Management Group meeting. Now this was the meeting of the 31st of January, so it's coming to the table right now. I think this was a fairly standard meeting for the LDMG. It pointed out the fact though that our Local Disaster Management Group and all the people who sit around the table representing the various service groups were entirely ready for the approaching storm season. Not that we have to deal with what Brisbane and the southeast part of Queensland, northern New South Wales had to deal with, but our group remains ready as well. Are there questions? Councillor Green?
Yes, thank you. On electronic page 10, the agency status report from CQ Rescue Reef, the Chair noted from the report that they are only funded for one helicopter. If it is taking a patient to Townsville, this could result in no coverage for Mackay, Isaac and Whitsundays for approximately 6 hours. Could I please be provided with further explanation regarding this statement and what it means for emergency coverage for our region?
The Mackay Rescue Service, which is operated by Central Queensland CQ Rescue, has the provision of one helicopter on a funded basis, and that's the emergency service rescue vehicle. About 70% of the hours that our helicopter does is in what they call an inter-facility transfer. And most of that time it's transferring a non-critical patient to Townsville or Rockhampton or wherever the hospital might be, which leaves us a little bit exposed, or quite a lot exposed, if a tragedy should happen at a mine site, out at the reef or in one of the island areas or on our highways, because it's a very slow transfer and a helicopter that does 150 knots. It can take about 6 hours out of the day by the time the transfer happens. And it might be just transferring somebody up to do a normal operation that has to go in a medical type vehicle. The CQ Rescue has been pleading with the state through Queensland Health for a number of years to actually have a fixed wing aircraft based here. Fixed wing aircraft could do it in a quarter of the time at half the cost, and will leave our helicopter available for emergency services, which is what it should be. So that's a work in progress with Queensland Health at the moment. That's the answer to that one, Councillor Green. Any further questions? No further questions. Somebody like to move the adoption? Councillor May moves, seconded by Councillor Townsend. Councillor May?
I'll just briefly say a couple of things with regards to the report. It is from January, as you noted, and just above that item that Councillor Green raised, we note the retirement of the CQ Rescue CEO, Ian Rowan, and he will be retiring as soon as the suitable replacement is found. I'd also like to draw out around the SES report there and the great success they've had with their recruitment in December, with new members being signed up, at 10 in that intake, and then also they advised us of a further 7 that have been signing up for the next recruitment in March. So that's really good and pleasing numbers to see. Also like to note the comments from Queensland Police Services in regards to the rallies that have been taking place in our area, and we know from the report here that there was an incident at Caneland a month or so ago now, and Queensland Police, that seems to have been a one-off occasion where the rally went outside the bounds of what they were supposed to be doing. They inform us that there seems to be less participants at those rallies now, and they do have them planned for nearly every weekend, so that's just a noting there. But you're right, Mr Mayor, in what you say, that our LDMG have been ready to be stood up whenever needed to during the storm season. Touch wood, we are just about done with the storm season, and we have really had no activation during that time, apart from assisting other areas that require assistance, and we'll see further in our reports where council has assisted, with the flood recovery process and clean up and those sorts of things. So we've had a relatively clear run this season.
I think we all should touch wood, Councillor May, because the latest recorded cyclone, I think, is in June. Not in our area, but on the Queensland coast. So, is there a speaker against? Any other speakers? Councillor Bella speaking for?
Yes, just quickly, just take the opportunity, I've said it once before, but and it is related to this in that we've had an exceptional year as far as the way our rain's fallen. We haven't had flooding, but we've got exceptional growth, plant growth. And I really think this year we're going to face a considerable fire danger. And it's probably now that we really need to start thinking about what we're going to do to mitigate that. I've rarely seen fuel loads as heavy as what we've currently got. So if we can just put the call out to people, well, not only for council and for our disaster groups, but for private landowners and that, to start looking at what they can do to mitigate, I think something that's going to has the potential to be pretty scary later this year.
I agree, Councillor Bella. We'll put it on the District Disaster Management Group agenda for discussion, so that we have that at the top of the talk list every DDMG, which is every couple of months. So the next month's coming up shortly. Thank you. Any other speakers? For the motion, those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. Thank you. Let's move on to correspondence and the officers' reports now. First one is from the Office of the Mayor and CEO, the Strategic Financial Report for February 22. CEO.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the February financial report is currently showing an unfavourable variance of around $300,000 against the year-to-date budget. While our operating revenue is above the year-to-date budget, primarily due to an increase in development applications and higher than anticipated grant income, areas that have impacted unfavourably include rental income, interest income, and sales contracts and recoverable works income. Higher than budgeted operating expenses have also contributed to the February result, particularly in the area of employee benefits. Now, we will continue to monitor income and expenditure trends and ensure the required updates to spreading are done in a timely manner so they can be reflected in the next month's report. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks, CEO. Questions? No questions? Somebody like to move the report to adoption? Councillor May moves, seconded by Councillor Anglet. Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. As our CEO noted, just a small unfavourable variance this month in the Strategic Financial Report. And I suppose the other draw out in the summary there is the capital projects, $63.2 million have been expended, which really represents about 51% of our capital program. And I know that the Capital Works Directorate is working very hard to ensure that we get as close as we possibly can to delivering that program. And you'll see in the areas of concern, I mean, COVID continues to play a part in our council operations. Our work in the asset management space of the data cleansing is always an area to watch, particularly when it comes to depreciation and the impact on depreciation of assets that we might discover during that process that we haven't accounted for before. And of course the impacts on our supply of material and resources to not just deliver our capital program, but in our normal operations as well. So it's certainly areas to watch, and I know that the team do a great job in monitoring that month on month. I just wanted to draw out this month around the balance sheet. We don't often talk about the balance sheet of the council, but I thought this month we should just have a little look at it. And you can see there from the actual, there's $289 plus million worth of current assets, and about half of that is made up of cash reserves. So while the cash reserves have not been performing favourably as far as generating additional revenue for us, we are in a strong position as far as having cash reserves. The other thing to note there is our liabilities, and look, for a council of our size to have liabilities, both current and long-term liabilities of $227 million, just a tad over that. When you compare that to our cash position and our asset position, leaves us with community equity of $3.5 billion, so quite a sizable amount, and as far as balance sheets go, quite a very healthy position for our council to be in. I know that the team are constantly monitoring the collection of rates and fees and charges, and if you look at the rates recoverable there, overdue $5.9 million, which is not a bad position to be in, given the rating discount period finished on the 16th of March. So we fare very well. When you look at us on the average of the state, and you'll see on the graph there that state average is just under 9%, and we are sitting at about 2.5% in rate recoveries in the trend. So that is a great position to be in. And I think the other call out here is in the key performance indicators, and we talk about the asset sustainability ratio. You'll see in your report that it is all red, which is not an ideal position to be in. But when you read the officer's explanation around that of the council's assets, and some of the major assets have just not long been renewed over the last 4 to 5 years, doesn't allow for that asset ratio to be anything but red, because we're not expending the money on renewals. We've actually replaced some of our big assets, and that causes that ratio to be in the red. So there's no real alarm bells ringing for Mackay Regional Council as far as strategic financial reporting goes.
Thank you very much, Councillor May. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. The Development Services monthly report for February. Director.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Council, for considering the Development Services monthly report for February. I'll just start off to say there were some issues with this month's monthly report. The version that ended up being loaded to the agenda wasn't actually the final approved version. There's no factual errors, but you might notice the formatting and some of the wording's a bit off, and so apologies for that. We did have some issues with loading that report. So now I'll move on to some highlights from February. Development application numbers are continuing to track higher than previous years, as can be seen by the development planning and engineering budget figures, and I think that was referred to in the last report also. Despite this, the team has improved its performance against KPIs, and continuing improvement is expected in that space. Work has been progressing on Major Amendment 3 to the planning scheme, which will facilitate a range of commercial and other non-residential uses within designated precincts within the Finch, Hatton and Youngblood townships. We're close to having this major amendment ready for consideration by Council. Security screening with lockable gates is currently being added to the front and sides of the Camilleri Street Park Amenities building. That might not sound very exciting, but it will improve the security of this building at night, because we have been seeing significant repeated vandalism occurring at this site. Planning is underway for some new plantings at Queen's Park and some additions to the orchid collection. On the 9th of February, Council endorsed the revised Facilitating Development of the Mackay Region policy. Promotional video highlighting the achievements of some of the mentees of the Small Business Mentoring Program Round 2 was launched on the 18th of February. This coincided with the launch of Round 2 of the Small Business Mentoring Program, which is again being offered for eligible startup businesses in the Pioneer Valley to support the Pioneer Valley Mountain Bike Park. Council hosted the Mackay Chamber of Commerce B2B Brews at Pancake Bliss, Blue Water Lagoon, on the 22nd of February, which was a well-attended, successful event. And in February, there was a push to review the Sugar Shed's reseller outlets and to engage with new outlets to retail its products. And this work resulted in 3 new local retailers stocking Sugar Shed products. So with that, I'd like to present this report to Council and happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Director. Questions for the Director? Councillor Green.
Thank you. On electronic page 50, it's reported that staff are finalising a signage order to upgrade and replace beach signage across the region. Surf Lifesave in Queensland are finalising their internal review of the recent fatality at Imeo Beach, and I'm just curious if there are any recommendations regarding beach signage improvements are identified in their review. Will they be taken into account in this audit?
Thanks, Councillor. Director.
Yes, thank you, Worship. Yes, that was a tragic event, and I'd just like to pass on my condolences to the Boyce family. The audit that's almost completed was really just aimed at the numbered beach accesses, at the signage to the beach accesses. I would expect any outcomes or recommendations around signage to come out of the audit that's occurring would result in a new project. It would be aimed at different signage, so we would take that and consider that as a new project.
Right, further questions? Councillor Mann?
So I've got a couple. Electronic page 40, where it says a contractor accessing the original forest site, Botanic Gardens, with their chipper has caused extensive damage to the boardwalk. So I wondered how long we've been using contractors for, and are they going to be responsible for fixing that up?
Director, thank you.
Your Worship. Yes, so from time to time we do utilise specialist contractors at Botanic Gardens. In this case, it was an arborist contractor that was utilised to perform work that wasn't able to be performed by Botanic Gardens staff. And we're going through discussions with that contractor to have them fix the damage that was caused.
Right, you have another question?
Two more, yeah. So the desilting trial project, the report was due from the contractor mid-January. Have we got that yet?
Director?
Yes, thank you, Worship. Yeah, this has become incredibly frustrating for us all in Parks and Environment, and I know it's frustrating for the councillors. So we've had the manager or other senior leaders chasing that report up weekly, and despite being promised it still isn't arriving. So we're looking at other options in conjunction with procurement to actually get an outcome from that engagement.
Councillor Mann?
And yeah, the final one. In the economic indicators, the report talks about median house price, but I wondered if we could get median rental price in there as well, because that's an important indicator, I feel, anyway. Because we talk about vacancy rate for rentals.
Yeah. Okay, is that doable, Director?
Yes, Your Worship, yeah, we can do that. We can start that from the next report.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jones?
Thank you, Worship. I have two questions. On page 45, the Environmental Sustainability Strategy. So it runs out this year in 2022, and last year we started the journey of doing research to get a new strategy ready for this year. I see that there's only 2 of the 5 working groups that have already been established, but you know, I see that there are 3 that haven't been established, and while I'm more than happy to be involved, I was told that this was an internal working group or groups. So my questions are, who's going to be championing the remaining 3 groups? When will they be up and running, as we're already late in March 2022?
Okay, Director, can you answer that?
So those working groups sit underneath the Sustainability Executive Group, which is a group of officers across council at a senior level, and that group's been established to drive projects under the current sustainability strategy. And the working groups then are more the officers actually directly involved in delivering those projects and making sure, because as you know, a lot of sustainability projects sit across different areas and there's collaboration required across those areas. So the working groups that are up and running are the ones where we really do have active work on the go. There's one of the groups is the corporate strategy group. So we were waiting for finalisation of the new corporate plan before establishing that group. So I don't think we're running out of time in terms of those groups. It's about when it makes sense to bring them online, and that scheduling and all that work is being overseen by the Sustainability Executive Group.
My second question, Your Worship, just in the Parks and Environment area, I'm not sure how many other councillors have, but I've certainly received a lot of complaints over the last 2 months regarding our town looking shabby and unloved as a result of the mowing issues that we have. So I guess I'm wanting to know, you know, I know that our new version of our restructure, our parks restructure, started on the 1st of February. I'm just wanting to know how much longer it'll be before we start seeing some significant change in the community, so that our community know that we're on top of this.
Thanks, Councillor Jones. Director?
Yes, thank you, Worship. Yeah, the restructure started on the 7th of February,
Oh,
so
sorry.
give us an extra week.
Yep.
But no, so yeah, there was a major organisational change in our parks area, and it was a change not just to the structure but to the way that the teams operate. So on top of that, we had 20 plus new staff start in those teams in and around that time. On top of that, we still have number of vacancies, and it has been, I think as Councillor Bella pointed out before, ideal growing conditions. You know, we've just had an even spread of rainfall, lots of sunshine, the grass just won't stop growing. So look, we're aware that we are behind and that things aren't operating the way we like. We're still sure that the changes that we've made will result in improvements to parks maintenance over time, but it is going to take us a little while now just to get on top of the backlog and get on top of things and get to a point where we can really start to see the benefits of the improvements. So right now really waiting for, you know, it has cooled down a little bit, hoping the rain will ease up a little bit, and for the dry season to come, which will give us some time to really embed some new practices. But until that point, it's really about us utilising whatever mechanisms we can to catch up on the backlog and get up to speed with the mowing.
Thanks. I guess, CEO, it would be helpful to know what a little while looks like in terms of our ability as an elected body to interact with the constituents, to give them a time frame.
We'll take that away.
Thank you. All right. Hey, Councillor Bonaventura, you got a question?
Thank you. Your Worship, as you know, I always keep a bit of an eye on our value of approved operational works, and normally happy to skite about that. But we've started off very flat. We are the lowest that we've been by the end of February for the last 5 years. So I'd just like to ask the Director on her thoughts as to why we're in such a slow start and what the crystal ball gazing looks like for the rest of the year.
Director?
Thank you, Worship. We haven't been off to a slow start. It's still really, really busy. So that graph shows the value of the works.
Yes.
And so, and I mean, if you compare that to, and I'm not going to say the particular development that led to the spike in 2020. So, you know, it is about the value of the operational works that we're getting in. At the moment, it's been lower value works. But in terms of application numbers, as I referred to in my introduction, as you can see from our budget figures, we are well and truly exceeding what our predictions were. So, you know, I would expect that would pick up, but it really depends upon the scale of the operational works being undertaken for the developments that we're receiving the applications for.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. No, operational works is where that money is. That's the works that keep all our subcontractors and our businesses going. So that's the reason for the question. Thank you.
Further questions? Councillor Seymour.
On the lagoon weed management, I see there's ongoing spraying going on, and occurring. How successful is this treatment?
Question. Can you answer that, Director?
Yeah, I can try. Thank you, Worship. I mean, so weed management of the lagoon is 12 months a year. We're doing different things. At the moment, it is the wet season, so you know, weed spraying does get interrupted if it's raining or you know if it's windy. The spraying is part of a range of different things we do to control the weeds, so it has its place. But there are other things like weed harvesting and the use of the long arm excavator that we do use as well that complements that. But that's not something we use at this particular time of the year. So it's part of the bigger picture. It plays its part.
Thank you.
Okay. Further questions? No further questions. Would somebody like to move the report's adoption? Councillor Englert moves, seconded by Councillor Townsend. Councillor Englert.
Thank you, Worship. Economic Development is continuing to work with successful applicants for the Activate My Place grant program, and the majority of councillors went to the Marion State School who completed their mural to inspect that, I think, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. I've got to say that's a great example of exactly what this program is meant to deliver for our communities. I'll talk about Fifth Lane in a second, but Ninth Lane revitalisation project has been delayed due to COVID, but we're looking to commence that in April. In the interest of making the Mackay region a serious fishing destination, the development of the refreshed Hooked on Mackay website is well underway. Economic Development has worked with Rockhampton Regional Council, Mackay Isaac Tourism and consultant Earthcheck to deliver a draft Barrow Highway concept development plan, and to help promote the opening of the Barramundi season, Mackay Isaac Tourism and Council organised 2 competitions ranging from fishing and with prizes ranging from fishing charters to island day trip vouchers. The last of the Hooked on Mackay Ambassador Program videos have been finalised and they've been released to social media. Mackay Beach horse races will be held on June the 10th to 12th, 2022 at Mackay Harbour. Economic Development, Mackay Isaac Tourism and Sound Australia stakeholder meetings are scheduled monthly, and ad hoc meetings added when required to discuss the delivery of this event. So that should be a good one to look forward to. And officers are currently preparing the scope to engage suitably qualified consultants to undertake the preparation of the recreational vehicle strategy for Mackay region, with the project to commence this final year with the completion of next year. Safe Night Precinct Initiative Grant, we've been hearing those ads on the radio for the last week now. They're designed for commercial businesses and incorporated bodies, give access to funding to improve the late night economy, particularly around safety and security of businesses and people in the Safe Night Precinct. And Fifth Lane was shortlisted for the Australian Street Art Awards in the category of Best Street Art Laneway, and it says the winners will be announced in the report, but I'm happy to say that that won gold last week, so that's a great outcome for that program also. It shows that we're really picking the right activities to follow up on. Second last, Serena Sugar Shed, ticket revenue up 19.7%, although this was still down a little bit as a result of the 2 weeks of heatwave we had. But retail sales were down 8.2% based on potentially that lack of those ticket sales for that week. But otherwise, Serena Sugar Shed looks to be doing a really good job. And just finally, a reminder that on the 1st and 2nd of April, the free plant giveaway it will be occurring at the Mackay Nature Environment Centre. Great report, commended to the council.
Thank you very much, Councillor England. Speaker against? Any other speakers? As Councillor Townsend speaking for.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to bring to the community's attention some of the great up-and-coming events that we're holding here in our local town. Gumcross Valley Motocross Club at Kamala is hosting the Australian Off-Road Championships on April 8th and 9th, and on the 10th of April they're hosting the Pro Max Championships. Mackay Basketball Multi-Sports Stadium is hosting the 2022 Junior Basketball Championships from the 18th to the 22nd of April. This is always very well attended over that weekend, and it attracts visitors from out of our town as well. So it's going to generate some nice little healthy income to our community. April 30 to the May 2nd is the Great Barrier Reef Arena Bash for Cash, another popular annual event which is going to be held at the Great Barrier Reef Arena Park at Harrop Park. Our MEC will be the venue for the Rotary Combined District Conference to be held from April the 30th to May 2nd, another great event that's held here that draws people from out of our region. So there's a huge variety of events that our public should be supporting, so I encourage them to check out the availability of tickets and get themselves off and support these worthy events. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Townsend. Any other speakers? Put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. Thank you. 11.2.2 is Development Application 160 for 2021. It's a material change of use for preliminary approval variation request. Director, is there anything you need to say on this?
Thank you, Worship. I think the report's quite comprehensive. We also had a briefing with Council in relation to this. It is recommended for approval, and yeah, happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Yes, we have had briefings on this, councillors, as you know. This is a comprehensive report. Are there questions? No questions? Somebody would like to move the report's adoption. Councillor Green moves, seconded by Councillor Hassan. Councillor Green.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, it is very comprehensive, but if I can put it into practical terms, this application is requesting a rezoning from the local impact industry zone to mixed use zone by introducing a low impact industry mixed use precinct at 29 and 33 Arana Drive and 1 to 11 Kyle Street in Rural View. The application seeks to vary the planning scheme to allow for and encourage non-industrial uses, commercial uses on this site instead of solely industrial uses under the current zoning. This variation will allow some uses to become code accessible where previously they were impact accessible. So some examples of business uses would now include healthcare service, office, shop or childcare centre. So there were three critical issues identified by Council's planning team that required further detailed assessment of this application. The first is the risk that the proposal may impact the viability of existing businesses and centres in the Northern Beaches. The second was the risk that the proposal will result in an undersupply of industrial zoned land in the region and the Northern Beaches specifically. And the third was the lack of on-site car parking to service high traffic generating uses such as shops, healthcare centres and childcare centres. So in response to the first 2 points, the applicant has provided Council with a report which Council had the findings of the report independently reviewed. The analysis and the resulting report concluded that the rezoning will not adversely impact the existing centres within the Northern Beaches, nor will it have a detrimental impact on the supply of low-impact industry land in the Mackay region. The report provides the following conclusion, which I'd like to read. We would contend that the loss of the subject site, either partially or in full for industrial purposes, is inconsequential in the broader Mackay context due to the relatively small size of the industrial land holding and the availability of appropriate substitutes to service the low-impact industry needs of urban Mackay now and into the future. And in response to car parking, to ensure the issue is addressed, the uses that generate a higher car parking rate are proposed to be code accessible in the newly established mixed-use zoned car parking precinct. A condition of approval is recommended to confirm any uses that are proposed which do not comply with set car parking rates, or if there are concerns regarding traffic queuing. And these would be supported by a traffic impact assessment and car parking study at the time of making a material change of use application for a supported non-industrial use. I'd also like to note that the application is impact accessible and was subject to public notification. The application was notified for 30 business days and Council did not receive any submissions. Your Worship, the Northern Beaches has seen an increase in the number and type of commercial businesses, and speaking as a resident of the Northern Beaches, I've welcomed the added convenience of modern day living and choices in my local area. Items or services that once required a trip to the CBD are now 5 minutes from my home. And employment opportunities for local youth are increasing, and importantly, they're accessible by riding or walking to work. Parents would be happy with that. So this proposal to rezone to encourage more industrial or non-industrial commercial uses in this growing area, in my opinion, is a step forward for the Northern Beaches residents and businesses. So I recommend
Thanks,
this
Councillor Green.
proposal.
Speaker against? Any other speakers? Councillor Bonaventura speaking for.
Thank you, Your Worship. Look, I'm quite happy to support this motion, and as Councillor Green has said, there was a report that said we no longer require. It's going to make minimal impact by removing the idea of using that land for light industrial. And I'm happy with that because that's what that report has come back. But just as a council, we'll need to be aware that somewhere along the line, we will need that because as Councillor Green has said, a lot of things she had to come to town for are now available 5 minutes from her residence, which is great, and I appreciate that's very good for the residents of that region. The problem is that if we don't have light industrial, there are a lot of other uses that we still have to come over to town for in that light industrial area that could be utilised within the Northern Beaches area as it grows. So as a council, we will need to continue to look for possibilities where we can make some of that land available or put that land into the planning scheme as such. But happy to support the motion.
Thanks, Councillor Bonaventura. Councillor Moe speaking for.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Look, as we know, the Alberti subdivision's been around for quite some time, and Councillor Jones will probably remember back in 2004 when she was on council, that being approved in the master planning stage. We have seen lots of reiterations of the plan, and as we know, when developments occur and changes occur within the community, it's good to be able to be flexible and adopt those changes within a development application that serves the community as well as serving the developer. It was great to see in this application that the applicant provided an economic impact assessment and also a traffic management assessment as well to make sure that we have covered off on all of those bases that community may have had some concerns about. We haven't lost the industrial zone, which is I think is a really good outcome of this application. We've been able to maintain still having that available if there is a need for that, but it also opens it up for that mixed use availability of potential commercial activity as well. So I think overall this is a good outcome for this development. We've had a number of briefings on it. We actually walked the site ourselves. Council as a whole went and had a site visit. So I'm happy to support the application.
Thanks, Councillor May. Any other speakers? Councillor Jones speaking for.
Thank you, Your Worship. Pretty much Councillor Bonaventura stole my thunder, and I agree and concur with everything that he said. I do too have concerns about the fact that the zone is going to be changed from light industrial, and knowing that Paget is our primary industrial hub. And the Northern Beaches is the furthest, I guess, growth area that we have from something like Paget. So as Northern Beaches grows, I do have those concerns that we're taking away some opportunities for the people out at the Northern Beaches. But overall, all the information that we've received, I'm happy to support the motion.
Thanks, Councillor Jones. Any other speakers? I'll put Councillor Green there. You're exercising a right of reply.
Just to add,
got about a minute.
Yeah, sorry. Just quickly, just on that point there, just to back up what Councillor May was saying, that we're not taking any light industrial land away. We're just adding the mixed use zone to it, so that we now have a greater scope of businesses for that region. So if there are light industrial uses to come, then that land is still there. So
thanks,
just to clarify.
Councillor Green. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. 11.2.3 is development application 168, a material change of use. It's a major sport, recreation, and entertainment facility. Lot 19 on C14018. Director, is there anything you need to say about this one?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Again, 2 development applications in one meeting, so a big meeting. And again, this is a comprehensive report. We've had briefings on this application as well with council, and again, this is recommended for approval.
Certainly been well briefed to council on this one. We've had a lot of discussion on it. A number of councillors have been out and had a look at it as well. Are there questions? No questions? Somebody like to move the report's adoption? Councillor Anglin moves, seconded by Councillor Townsend. Councillor Anglin.
Thank you, Worship. As you said, another comprehensive report, subject of numerous briefings over several months. This site's located approximately a kilometre east of the Bloomsbury Township. It's a 264 hectare rural zone lot, which has frontage to both Exmoor and Midgepoint roads. Basically, they're applying to subdivide so that they can put in a fenced bull riding ring and associated bullpens and holding yards, a 1,700-seat grandstand, shed for use of the sale of food, drinks and merchandising, amenities, RV, caravan camping and vehicle parking. There were some submitters. There were several matters reported. I'm personally satisfied that the officers have sufficiently explained why this should come to council with a recommendation to approve, given that I believe the matters have been answered satisfactorily. So I support the officer's recommendation.
Thank you very much, Councillor Angus. Speaker against? Are there any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Let's move on to the ECI reports for this month, or the reports are actually for February, but this meeting. 11.3.1, ECI for transport and drainage. Director.
Thank you, Your Worship. So no LTIs for the month, but 7 safety incidents. So 6 of those were injuries, so obviously something to still be conscious of. Our resourcing is still a little bit of an issue, more around the vacancies. So we sort of had COVID impacts over the last couple of months, but they seem to have plateaued out a little bit, hopefully. But yeah, still obviously recruiting, so it's a tough market at the moment. So looking to supplement that with getting more resources as much as we can. We have a nice little window at the moment off the back of the hot and dry weather, where we're getting in and doing as much work in the open drains as we can. So hopefully we can maintain that workload until we have another rainfall event. The budget's tracking in line with year-to-date budget, and the 1.9 million for work in Queensland is now fully expended on the Onefield Road network. We had the resignation of our manager of asset management last month, so he has now moved on, and we've appointed Cameron Jessup, who was our coup, into that role in interim period. So obviously doing some work in there. We'll get him back in a month or so to give an update to councillors on where we are with asset management and what the focus is. Other than that, I haven't taken questions.
Thanks, Director. Questions for the Director? Councillor Mann.
So just in relation to the major subsidence and pipe failure at the intersection of Brisbane Street and River Street, just wondered how the repair was progressing and if it was progressed as a high priority.
Director.
Yes, Your Worship. So yes, certainly high priority placed on that. So obviously a significant issue with an old brick sewer there, a small section. So yeah, part of that has been the appropriate planning. So Dolphin dig the Zergon there, so and engage a contractor. So there's a pre-start meeting on today. They'll commence work from Monday and anticipated around 7 days to actually have the work done.
Further questions, Councillor Bonaventura?
Just following on, sorry, was just following on from Councillor Mann, and thank the Director for the two photos that showed us the area and inside. The second photo shows like a brick drain. My question is, did we send a camera further up there, and if so, what condition is the rest of the pipe further up as a risk factor?
Thanks, Councillor. Director.
That's a good question, Councillor. Yeah, so you've been right. This is an old actually brick formed stormwater, and for some reason there's a small section right at the end that hasn't been relined. The rest of the actual stormwater brick sewer has been, water pipe has been relined. So it was just this small section. So it's only about 6 metres, but unfortunately it's deep and obviously in the middle of the road. So we're having a look at why that wasn't actually done as part of the rest of the work. But yeah, it's a short section right at the end that hasn't been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions? Councillor May.
Just in relation to the work in progress and the donated assets there, we read the report and there was a further $44 million worth of assets added to the work in progress. And I'm just wondering, you know, what steps have we got in place to actually get those assets recognised, capitalised into the accounts on a more regular basis, I suppose, or how are we dealing with that?
Can you answer that, Director?
Yeah, I certainly have a go, Your Worship. So look, I think, Councillor, it's an ongoing battle. Obviously, the issue with the capitalisation is that it's not a smooth process where we have it coming on a regular basis. So it has some humps, so that's something we're trying to work with, trying to streamline the process. So through ADAS, we can actually move through that a lot quicker. So yeah, I think at the moment we're obviously experiencing a little bit more work coming in and trying to resource that up internally. But I'm happy to sort of, when we come back and have a bit more briefing on asset management and the WIP, get into a bit more detail with councillors around that.
Thank you.
Okay. Further questions? No further questions? Would somebody like to move the report's adoption? Councillor Mann moves. Councillor Hassan seconds. Councillor Mann.
Thank you, Worship. Just wanted to reiterate the Director's words, no lost under injury, which is always really good in a business this size and the nature that the program, or nature of the work the program completes. The report also notes 100% of monthly action plans being completed, and I just think we can never take our eye off the ball, so it's very important to be completed in a timely manner, and I guess as much as can be done as well. 7 incidents for the month, but each incident results in learnings, which is also a good thing as far as I'm concerned. Road maintenance activities completed as per work order priority, and I don't think it's any surprises to anybody that pothole repairs was the biggest generator of work orders. Pavement sweeping activities have been delivered, including to our rural areas, so again, really important that that gets done right around the region, and that is a massive job, as we'd all know. The Director talked about the major subsidence and pipe failures, so that's being looked at now as a high priority. Unsealed road grading across the region is important and has been progressing as per the program and utilising Works for Queensland money. And I just wanted to reiterate how valuable Works for Queensland money is to every council that manages to get a share of that funding, because it helps us to deliver what is our business as usual in a timely manner, I guess.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Councillor Mann. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. The Eci Report for waste services for the month of February. Director.
Thank you, Worship. Again, starting with safety. So there was 4 vehicle incidents. So obviously with our contract with JJ Richard. So good response from the team, and obviously getting back into JJ's and trying to understand the cause for those and making sure that it's not something we continue to see. Hogan pocket landfill tonnages are down again, so slight downward trend for the last couple of months. So again, with the activity happening around the region, hopefully that's reflective that people are looking for alternative methods to remove material or not use and dump it in the landfill, but we'll see how that trend continues to progress. Dump vouchers, so we have a couple more weeks left in relation to those for the current period. So that's 385,000 of expense in relation to vouchers redeemed today. Current budget, again, for waste is tracking in line, so expecting that will still be okay at the end of the year budget. And a number of operational projects are sort of happening across the board. So Hogan's pocket around stormwater and groundwater management. Our closed landfill review is progressing, so we expect to be in a position to come back to council in the next month with a briefing around that, and obviously asset management data review.
Thanks, Director. Questions? Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Just in relation to the dump vouchers, and I look at the trends, particularly over the last couple of years, and we see that the take-up of those vouchers is trending down. Two questions. Have we ever done a review on the dump voucher scheme? And if we haven't, is there an inclination to do a review on that scheme as to whether there's some learnings or highlights where we can actually try and make it more effective?
Director?
Yes, Your Worship, very good question, Councillor. So yeah, we have been doing a bit of work behind the scenes about some opportunities through Mandalay, who run our systems for all our landfills, about moving electronic and being able to track where vouchers are coming from. So I'm happy that when we come back as part of that briefing, we'll get a whole waste area, we can include some information around proposal around that to obviously track that a little bit more.
Thank you.
Further questions? Councillor Bonaventura.
Your Worship, just the graph on page 194 shows the MRF inbound and outbound and landfill tonnes. And I note from December, our inbound totals are higher than the combined outbound and landfill tonnes. So that obviously leads to the question, do we have an increasing stockpile of materials at the moment, or could I just get a bit of an explanation what the Director sees at that point?
Thank you. Director?
Yes, Your Worship, very good observation, Councillor, and the answer is yes, we do have more stockpiles as a result of that inbound tonnages. So we're currently working with the MRF operator around that now. So I think there's a meeting this week to actually talk about a plan. They do have something in place where we expect to see that those stockpiles just drop down over the next couple of months.
Thank you.
Thank you. No further questions? No further questions. Somebody like to move the report's adoption? Councillor Hassan moves. Second by Councillor Green. Councillor Hassan.
Thank you, Worship.
Again this month, always pleasing to see in the report that there's no lost time injuries, but there were 4 minor incidences, all involving our contractor vehicles. So just a reminder to our contractors and, of course, the general public to just remain aware of their surroundings. They were relatively minor incidents, but where our contractor vehicles are coming into contact with other members of the public. It was really good to see participation of students and teachers from the Catherine Macaulay College and also Conservation Volunteers Australia with the clean-up of both Quota Park and the Far Beach areas. It was really great to see that. While it's disappointing, of course, to see the sheer volume of rubbish that is collected in those areas, it is heartening to know that there's always volunteers in our community available to give up their own time, usually on weekends, and get out there and help clean up those public areas. So I just want to pass on a huge thanks to all of those students, teachers, and volunteers who participated in that cleanup. Again, just reiterating what the Director said about the dump vouchers, the expiry date for those is approaching. We're seeing them coming to the end of the wet season, and I'm sure that people are getting their yards back in order, so just a reminder for people to take advantage of those dump vouchers. And finally, just to commend the management team and their staff for that ongoing commitment to continuous improvement. Waste management is a huge part of what Council does, significant cost to both the Council and, of course, ratepayers. So just want to pass on thanks to that team for always endeavouring to remain on top of those projects that will always benefit the community.
Thanks very much, Councillor Hassan. Speaker against? Any other speakers? No other speakers have put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. The Eci Report for water for the month of February. Director.
Thank you, Your Worship. Again, starting with safety, no LTIs, 3 incidents, 2 acid damage and 1 heat stress. So a bit of a focus, especially with that warm weather we had, and the second one we sort of had in that area. So quite a bit of focus around making sure that we're reviewing our processes and procedures around that, and obviously looking for those hold points when we need to tap into to make sure that we don't have anyone suffering heat stress going forward. Again, currently budget for water and sewerage is tracking a little bit below, but we expect that will sort of pick up and be in line with the end of year budget as well. Water consumption is still obviously variable on the rainfall, so for February we had a reasonable amount of rain and it's dropped. We expect that will pick up again in March, where it's been a little bit drier and warmer. Yeah, other than that, I haven't taken any questions.
Thanks, Director. Questions for the Director? Councillor Seymour.
Yeah, I noticed in the report the non-registered leaks in the area is escalating. Like in October last year, there was 943. Now there's 2,000, nearly 2,200 leaks. And should there be more onus put on those people, because there's only been 16 new renewals this month, and there's 16,000 registered altogether, but there's 2,000 notified ones here that aren't members. Will there be more put on them to get them to register themselves?
Director, is there anything that you can add to that discussion?
Probably not. I'll have to take that on board and have a little bit of data, but yeah, this is probably the time of year of the change in weather we do see a little bit of few more leaks occurring, so obviously there's a bit more ground movement occurring, but I'll have a look at the data and see what the trends are.
Okay, I guess the question is there anything further the council can do, in your opinion, that would drag some of these, the leak offenders into our system of bywater?
Obviously, Your Worship, we talked about obviously having everyone sign up for IH2O, so that is something we reference and having a bit of a look at the background of the option, but do an automatic sign up for everyone and have people have the vending option to opt out if that was to occur. So we're getting some advice around that, having to come back to something in a position to give a more effective answer.
Thank you. Okay. Further questions? No further questions. So we'd like to move the report's adoption. Councillor Hassan moves, seconded by Councillor Townsend. Councillor Hassan.
Thank you, Worship. I think the water services team, they consistently perform well in the area of safety. Again, no lost time injuries for the month, and as the Director alluded to, 3 minor incidences, which one of those related to heat stress, which the Director has already mentioned. I just think, again, the recent heat waves that we've had have really contributed to this, but it's always a good reminder to staff to just remain aware of hydration and being out there in the sun. Those outdoor teams, just making sure that they are aware of their own safety in the hotter months. February saw an increase of 158% on the previous month for plumbing applications, with 75 applications submitted. That was mainly attributed to contractors returning to work after the Christmas break, and then increased work just by what's happening currently within the industry. The approval turnaround time for that was 1 day, which is well within the targets of 5 days turnaround for those applications. So fantastic work by our staff to turn around that many applications within a 1 day period. And finally, I'd like to congratulate the team on their great results related to fulfilling work orders. They had a total of 898 work orders for this period, which is a massive amount. That included 201 water meter replacements or new installations. So again, that's a massive workload for that team, and I just think it's a really good time to congratulate everybody involved on the achievements that they constantly see.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Councillor Hassan. Speaker against? Any other speakers? Councillor Bonaventura speaking for.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one point, if I could, just on the water consumption. And it is very pleasing to see that it was very close to our target for the month of February. Like even the Marani area, which is normally well above, was only just over the 200 litres that we recommend. So I just want to thank residents for doing the right thing. And it is always, when you go out there, and I was out there yesterday for the neighbourhood cup of coffee, but you see those large blocks of land, and they do use more water to keep those blocks nice and green. But it was very good to see in our report that we are almost tracking it spot on. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Bonaventura. Any other speakers? No other speakers. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. Thank you. Org Services monthly review for February. Director.
Good morning, Your Worship.
Safety continues to be a focus of the All Services Directorate, with no lost time injuries reported during February. It's disappointing to report that action was directed at some of our staff from members of the public. Some highlights for the department include customer service team continues to achieve outstanding customer satisfaction results, with 96% of completed surveys indicating that our external customers were satisfied with the service that was provided. The draft corporate plan has been reviewed and is in the final stage of design in preparation for adoption by council in the coming month. Work continues internally on the associated planning documents to deliver the initiatives in the corporate plan. Direct debit functionality, which will allow ratepayers to enter a direct debit arrangement online, is being configured and tested. This will reduce the requirement to contact our customer service teams. Big thank you to the property services team who coordinated recovery actions when lightning struck the Paddy Depot in February, bringing down much of the security system and disabling the fire system. Through much appreciated combined efforts of numerous programs, the facility was safely evacuated. Staff and contractors worked across the weekend to enable a safe and operational site for employees the following Monday. The fleet team continues to experience significant delays in the purchase of new fleet items. This has been exacerbated by the recent floods in southeast Queensland, noting several new items have been received in February. Applications for the 2022 mentoring program closed in February, with the Mackay process to occur in March. The Mackay Mentoring Network is a cross-industry initiative involving the Resource Industry Network and MRC. Preparations for the 2022-23 budget are well underway, and Council will participate in their first budget briefing this afternoon, which I'm sure you're all looking very excited about. The Information Services team continue their focus on cybersecurity, which includes sustainable cultural and behavioural changes, as well as an industry alignment with up-to-date technologies.
Thank you, Director. Questions for the Director? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Worship. I just note on page 240 that this year in February, all pools have declined in numbers except for Serena, which is great for Serena. But being that February and March have been very, very hot times of the year for us, I'm just curious why the pool numbers on all of our pools declined in numbers.
Right in the middle of the Umragon outbreak as well, so it's the same. I would suggest it's the same result for all the restaurants and all of the other entertainment facilities that saw the numbers decline rapidly from the 17th of December onwards. Director?
Yeah, so there's probably a couple of reasons. The delayed start to the school year and schools not participating in any outdoor activities, including swimming lessons, has contributed to that result in February. And also we did actually have 18 days of rain in February, so that the heat wave was more the end of February, start of March. So we should see March's numbers
coming back up again.
And school swimming has recommenced, so outdoors are busy.
Good. Further questions? Councillor May.
Just in regards to the fleet and the difficulties that we're experiencing there, and particularly around, you know, the utes and trucks, do we consider when we purchase a new vehicle to actually transfer the tray from the old vehicle onto the new vehicle? So buy something that's similar, so that instead of buying a new total unit every time, we can just transfer the tray or the fit out from the rear to the new vehicle. Is that taken into consideration?
Yes, we actually have started doing that over the last couple of years, standardising our fleet and making sure we can transfer the bodies, which take a lot of work and are often custom made. So we are transferring the bodies because they have a longer life than the cars. So yeah, we are doing that.
Excellent.
Other questions? No further questions. Would somebody like to move the reports of option? Councillor Townsend moves, seconded by Councillor Jones. Councillor Townsend.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to draw to everyone's attention and recognise the outstanding work from our customer service team, who responded to a total of 7,629 calls from our ratepayers during the month of February. This is an average of 381 calls a day, and added to this they responded to 6,483 emails, which was 1,110 more than the same period last year. I'd like to ask the Director to pass on our congratulations to the customer service team who have achieved outstanding customer satisfaction results for the month of February. Whilst attendances were down at our swimming pool facilities, and our Director has given us good reasons behind that, it was also excellent to see that the Blue Water Lagoon facility had 16,039 utilise this great facility during February. And the Mark continues to perform well, with total attendance for February at 9,902, which consisted of aquatic attendances, 8,832, and athletic attendances, 1,070. Finally, I'd like to say how great it is to see the number of trainees and apprentices employed by our council, ensuring our young adults have a great start to their future careers. We currently have 8 trainees and 12 apprentices who are progressing through their qualifications. So they've been given a great start to paving a career for themselves that ultimately benefit our community. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Townsend. Speaker against? Any other speakers? Councillor Mann speaking for.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yep. Look, I just wanted to touch on safety and the 8 incidents that were reported, and just my personal opinion how disappointing it is that 2 staff members were subjected to aggressive behaviour, and then 2 other staff members who tried to assist them also were subjected to that aggressive behaviour. So that means that we've got 4 staff who've been psychologically affected by that, and that's not okay. That's very, very disappointing. But to the 2 staff members who tried to intervene, I thank them for their efforts because they could see what was happening to their fellow workers. The excellent KPI results across shared services is fantastic, and again, thanks to the frontline staff that deliver it. The inclusion of the call arrival data that we get, I think is really valuable because we can actually plan what times are busier and how we might need more staff. And I just wanted to talk about my own personal experience last week where my bin was missed for collection, and it was very hit and miss. Some were collected, some weren't. And I rang the customer service, the call centre, and spoke to a very, very helpful lady, and I was quite concerned that the 5G chip that got implanted when I had my vaccination might have been working too well, because they could tell me in real time what bins were still out on the street and what bins had been put away to try and track if there was a problem. I've got to say, I would encourage all our customers to do the survey that's offered, because I could not have been happier with the service that I received. The customer service officer went above and beyond what she needed to do to try and work out what had gone wrong, and at the end of the day, my bin was picked up, so it was a really good result.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mann. You have to tell us your tracking number, so.
It's in the bin.
Are there other speakers?
Thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Volunteer.
Just one point I'd like to make, and it's in relation to the graph on page 229 on how we contact council. And it's interesting to note that emails are the most common at 6,500 or thereabouts. But I also know general request, and Councillor Mann was one of those, sitting at 156. But the steady increase over previous months of the Snap, Send, Solve, which is now, well, at 155 for the month, which is just below the general requests. And if you look at the rapid improvement in technology, mobile phone, there's a mobile phone app for everything, I believe Snap, Send, Solve will continue to rise, as it is simple and easy to use, and residents find it by far the simplest way to contact council. So it's very good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bonaventura. You're a great advocate for Snap, Send, Solve. Okay, are there other speakers to this motion? Councillor May.
Just one.
Speaking for.
Yes, just one point I'd like to draw out from the report, and that is in the section about coaching and mentoring. And we see in the report there that council, along with the Resource Industry Network, have initiated the mentor and mentee program, and we've got 17 mentors, 19 mentees. And it's interesting to read that they are going to be matched up by algorithms. So it'll be interesting to see some sort of an evaluation to see whether the algorithms have got that matching process right. But I really don't want to make fun of it. I think this is a great initiative on behalf of council and the Resource Industry Network. And the mentoring program in any organisation, I think, is a very valuable tool to be able to assist our staff, managers, leaders in development, and I think it's a great initiative.
Thanks very much, Councillor May. Other speakers? No other speakers, then I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion is carried unanimously. 11.4.2 is a new lease to Mackay Canoe Club. Are there questions around this one? Really straightforward, I think. Somebody like to move the reports of adoption? Councillor Green moves. Councillor Jones seconds. Councillor Green.
Worship. So the purpose of this report is to approve a new lease for the Mackay Canoe Club, which is situated in the Plaistow Connection Road in Plaistow, and they're asking for a period of the lease for another 10 years. They've been at this site under a 20-year lease arrangement, and their lease adjoins the Mackay Rowing Club site. The Mackay Canoe Club, they meet on Saturdays and Sunday mornings to paddle on the Pioneer River for fitness and fun, and they're always looking for new members to join. They're a small club, but their commitment to the local water sport community is very apparent. The Mackay Canoe Club wish to continue to promote their sport and enter into this new lease for a period of 10 years, which in my opinion, I think is a great outcome for the club, the sport and our wider community.
Thanks, Councillor Green. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. 11.4.3, lease to the Mackay Junior Motocross Incorporated. Once again, fairly good report. Straightforward. Any questions? No questions. Would somebody like to move the report's adoption? Councillor Green moves, seconded by Councillor Hassan. Councillor Green.
Thank you. So the purpose of this one is to approve the new lease for the Mackay Junior Motocross Incorporated for a period of 5 years. The leased parcel of land is located adjacent to the Roncam Bridge, Caneland Central Shopping Centre and Hume Street in Mackay. The Mackay Junior Motocross have occupied this site under a formal agreement for many years, and the club is committed to providing a safe and positive facility where motocross riders of all ages and abilities are welcome to come. They've worked hard to build their club and to raise their profile of motocross as a sport, and they were successful in their bid to host the Queensland Motocross Championship and CQ Series Round 1 in 2021. Approving this lease allows the Mackay Motocross Club to build upon these successes and to continue to grow their sport and their membership in the region.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Green. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. Thank you. 11.4.4, the new lease to the Mackay Softball Association. Questions? No questions? Somebody like to move the report's adoption? Councillor Green moves. Councillor Mann seconds. We've got many more, Councillor Green.
This is the last one.
Right, okay. Very good.
So the purpose is to approve a new lease for the Mackay Softball Association at Beaconsfield Road in Andergrove for a period of 10 years, and to give consent for a sublease from Mackay Softball Association to Brothers Bulldogs Junior Rugby League Mackay Incorporated. So the Mackay Softball Association have occupied this site since 1983, and they've shown a long-term commitment to the site by providing quality playing fields and investing considerable time and funds into establishing and improving the facilities and grounds at this sporting precinct. The grounds are used for fixture games during the softball season and softball carnivals, with state championships having been played here in previous years. Mackay Softball Association have subleased an area to Brothers Bulldogs Junior Rugby League, and the Brothers Bulldogs have indicated that they too wish to enter into a new sublease under the new same conditions. Mackay Softball Association wish to continue to promote the sport of softball in the community and enter in this new lease for 10 years. A new sublease will also be prepared once this head lease is approved. The shared arrangement is a real positive benefit for our wider sporting community, and I support this approval of this lease also.
Thank you. Councillor Green. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried unanimously. There's no petitions. There's no tenders. No notified motions to consider. Public participation. We have there's Mary Earwell in the public gallery, and Ms. Earwell, the rules of engagement are that you have 3 minutes. I'm sure you've had those explained to you, but this is not an interactive session. We're here to listen to what you have to say, and we'll make a decision on what your request is of council. And it's generally we'll pass it on to the CEO. But please go ahead. You're talking about Orphanage Road.
Goodman Orphanage Road. I don't know how many of you know where Orphanage Road is. if you turn off at the roundabout going to Mackay, to turn off on the Havana Road, we are 7 k's down that road. You turn right into Orphanage Road. We are a dirt road. We have lived on this road for 40 years. We are at 40 Orphanage Road. Now, I first started to complain about this road back in 2016, beginning of 2016, when a business was started down our road. Now, this business did not approach council. It took us nearly 2 years. We had to find the proof. We had council come out. Council would say, we see no signs of a business. It took us 2 years personally to get the information, report it to Mr. Darren Clark, that yes, there is a business being carried out down that road. Now that business has now had to be shifted. We were threatened, fair enough, they got back at us. We had renovations done to our house. Over 20 years ago, we were not aware that they had not been put through council. We had to spend money, we had to get us certified to get everything approved. Now that business down the road was given more time than us to get things done. I had a letter from Darren Clark to say all has been done down there. I rang him back and said, how can you say when everything's been done, when there is still low loaders, cranes coming in, taking out mine gear and bringing it back? His reply was, you have to get the proof. They might be taking it out to get it repainted. Fair enough. How many times do they have to take that same gear out to get repainted? Now, there's been 2 lots cut up, acreage lots, down Orphanage Road. Now, how many of you do know where Orphanage Road is?
Council knows where it is. But,
yeah, but all councillors.
But please, it's not an interactive session.
I'll keep going on. I know you are aware, there's a couple are aware, because I've had this out, we had this out in 2016 to look at that road. I know you're keeping an eye on the clock. I will be quick. Since then, we have had work. The waste of work that goes into that road is unbelievable. I have complained about the crest. We have complained about the crest. The reply was, it is assessed that the crest does not contribute to restricting disability. I don't know how you come about that. I would invite all councillors, if you have a day where you all come out and do a survey of things that people are concerned about, I invite you to come out to Orphanage Road to have a look at this road. Because if these blocks have been allowed to be sold, we are getting more traffic down the road, we get more dust. The crest is now, the sides are washed like gutters.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? What do we as ratepayers have to do? We are rural, we are on a country road. Don't we respect the same sort of service as young people? That's what I'm saying. And that's what annoys me. I nearly have a nervous breakdown over this sort of work that was done down our road. And I don't want to go through the same thing again. We thought we were sold, and I wasn't going to worry about it.
Thanks, Mrs. Ella. You've done 4 minutes now, so thanks very much.
Well, 4 minutes.
Thank you.
4 minutes compared to 6
Thanks,
years.
Mrs. Ella. Thank you. All right. CEO, can you take that on board and maybe we establish contact? Late business. Councillor Mann.
Thank you, Worship. I just wanted to talk about the Younger Land of Cloud book. Councillor May did talk about it at the last meeting, but I just want to talk about how councillors have started to deliver the book around the region, and just the reaction from that book being delivered has been overwhelmingly positive, with lots of people on Facebook saying, where can I buy it? I had the pleasure of doing some of them up the Piney Valley and have found out some amazing information along the way. But one of the stories I wanted to talk about was I went to Moroney High School, and the principal, when I presented the book to him, let me know that it was very timely because their investiture was the following Monday, and he was going to talk about the school as a community, how they need to support each other, just as the community, how Youngler became, the younger community supported each other through the events that have been beyond, out of their control. So he said it was timely because the book would actually give him the information he needed to deliver his speech at the investiture. I also delivered one to Pinnacle Primary School, where I went to school as well, and was sad to hear that they only had 12 students left. So I don't know how much longer that school will remain open, but for the people whose books haven't been delivered, they certainly have been asking, and it is, as I said, has been very well received, and I think it will be a really fabulous resource for each school.
Thanks very much, Councillor Mann. Any other late business, items of late business? No other items of late business? We have one confidential report to address. That's the Legal Services Monthly Report, and I'd kind of like to hear from our Legal Services Council. So somebody like to move that we close the meeting to the public? The Legal Services Monthly Report for February 22. Would somebody like to move its adoption? Councillor Mann moves, Councillor Bonaventura seconds. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried unanimously. Thank you very much, councillors. Thank you, CEO, directors. Declare the meeting closed.